Welcome and namaste to the Golden Child Podcast, the podcast to help you to reconnect with your inner child to live the life you truly desire. And here's my awesome intro.
Round 5.
Welcome back, guys. So today we have Molly Sommer directly from Canada. Welcome to a Golden Child Podcast. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me, Enrico. I'm really excited.
Please introduce yourself to the audience, where you're from, your experience, your background, maybe like through storytelling if you prefer it.
Yeah, for sure. So I live in British Columbia, Canada, and I have been coaching now for almost 7 years. I help creative entrepreneurs build a business and a life full of abundance, joy, and ease. And I do this through a number of modalities, and I absolutely love what I do, because I have learned to align myself with who I am and how I want to do things, which is really what it's all about. I made this change because I used to go to work every single day in tears. I had a great job for all intents and purposes. It paid the bills. I got to play with puppies every day because I used to be a dog trainer. But it really wasn't who I wanted to be in the world. And it was really very clear to me that something was off. And so I started a journey, and instead of following what I should be doing and following what other people said I could be doing, I started listening to my heart. I started listening to my inner guidance. And the journey has unfolded over the years in just the most amazing and wonderful ways.
I love this story, definitely. But what really interesting is how did you get into yoga? And also, I read a little bit your website and your story and your healing journey. And I remember some of the sentences that you shared on your website. Stress is normal. This is how it should be, and all this kind of stuff. Or how life is supposed to be according to maybe the medical word. I don't know, just according to people. I won't be using label because it's completely subjective. But can you share your healing journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I was working in a job that for all intents and purposes was a really great job. I walked dogs every day. I was, physically active every day, but I was experiencing migraines and stress, and I wasn't spiritually happy, because back then I wasn't spiritually connected really at all. And I was really questioning my existence, questioning how my life was going to unfold. And it really all came to a head when I took myself to the hospital, because my migraines had gotten to the point where I couldn't speak. I could have thoughts and I could understand what I was thinking, but I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. And so I was 38, 37, and I thought I was having a stroke.
Yeah.
And so, of course, this is a wake-up call, right? So I took myself to the hospital.
Okay.
And I went through the exam in the hospital, and the nurse just said to me, "Don't worry about it. This is stress. It's normal. I see it every day."
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, what do you mean this is stress? How can this be considered normal?
Yeah, exactly.
And she put me on an IV. She put me in a dark room. And sure enough, there were like 10 other people in that room, all suffering from what I was experiencing. And it occurred to me that, this was normal for her. This is what she was seeing day in and day out. And it just it was a wake-up call in so many ways, because I realized that, the way we have created society and our culture is to just slap a band-aid on what ails us and get back to work.
Yeah.
Right? I was expected to go back to work like nothing was wrong on Monday, when there was some seriously misaligned things and beliefs within me.
Of course.
And so when I started listening to my heart, the first thing that my body asked for was a yoga class, something easy, something restorative.
Same thing
And
that
so
happened to me. That's interesting. That's the
right?
same thing that happened to me more than
I
7 years
I
ago.
I hear it from a lot of people. And so I went to that yoga class, and a woman, a beautiful teacher, was talking that day. And she's become one of my best friends, and she's become a very important teacher in my own life. And she was talking about fear. And she was talking about how fear vibrates and resonates in our body, and how fear stops us from creating the relationships we want, from creating the life we want. And it stops us from showing up how our inner guidance, our soul wants or believes that we can show up. And so that message really landed for me that day. And I realized that I had been living in fear for as long as I could remember. And so that really started my own yoga journey, because my inner guidance started telling me to take yoga, do more yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And so over time, I thought to myself, well, maybe I should start teaching yoga, because I love yoga and I love what it's all about. And I love the spiritual aspect of it. And I love the physical aspect of it. And so I surrendered, and a yoga teacher training came available. And up until that point, I had been looking for yoga teacher trainings, but they were, in Bali or in India. And at the time, I had 2 small children at home that I didn't want to leave. And so when this yoga teacher training came up, it was on weekends when my children were with their father. It was a really great price point, and it was here local. So I didn't have to travel anywhere. And I just
Fantastic.
thought to myself, like, this is the universe giving me exactly what I've asked for. And so I
Amazing.
started taking the yoga teacher training, and the rest is history. It was the first big change in my life.
Who was your teacher in the first yoga teacher training?
My first teacher was a monk. His name is Madhusai,
Okay.
and he was just this beautiful being. He taught me my gifts. Obviously he taught me yoga and the history of yoga and the philosophy of yoga, but he also opened me up to my gifts and helped me see who I am as a being, a spiritual being, not just the product of my experiences and my life up until that point.
Beautiful. Well, this is what a guru should be, a remover of darkness. Uh, and this man shows you maybe your golden child. That's the very reason I created, the podcast, the golden child, our most, the purest part of us, which is our inner child. The child who wants to go to the moon, wants to be, an astronaut. The guy,
Exactly.
so it is an explorer, someone who dares, defying societal norms. He lives
Mhm.
in he or she lives in the present, doesn't care about the past nor the future. It's completely present. And I think that monk actually helped you to get in touch with little Molly and channel your energy to higher purpose.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree. He used to tell me, you don't have a problem, you are the problem. And
Okay.
yeah, right.
Okay. Nice.
It was very much, we get in our own way.
Yeah.
And we have to remove the layers of the gunk, the buildup that we experience over our
Mhm.
lifetime. And as we remove the layers, we come back into that being who is just pure possibility, pure light, pure love, because that's how we're all born.
Yeah.
And when I connect back to that part of myself, I can remember I have this very vivid memory of being a little girl and sitting in a tree in my backyard. And I was probably 4 or 5 years old. This was before I learned limitation. This was before I learned that maybe I saw things differently, before I started judging myself as being right or wrong, good or bad. And I would sit in that tree and I would talk to the tree. I would talk to the
Nice.
clouds. I would talk to the birds. I would just be completely in tune with everything. And I would receive messages back from source openly. Like I would talk to God as if God was sitting there in the tree with me. I
Beautiful.
remember feeling joyful. I remember feeling curious. I remember feeling excited. And when I came back to that part of myself, I realized that if I brought those parts of myself forward and began to express myself as an adult in that way,
Yeah.
I would then start being the person who I am truthfully.
Yeah.
And that's a game changer.
Completely. I don't know if you're familiar with the story of uh the golden Buddha. And so there was this huge statue of the Buddha. They had to remove it from one temple to another one. It was made of clay. They moved it during the night, and during the night it started raining. They covered the Buddha, and during the night, when the monk went out to check out it was okay, he saw a glimmer, and then he realized that the monk was not made of clay, but it actually was made of solid gold, which
Mm,
is basically all the layers that we have. And then we remove the clay, we remove the layers, and then we find, the gold, which is that's
absolutely.
the secondary reason why I chose gold and not silver child,
Mhm,
also because of the property of gold from an Ayurvedic point of view.
mhm. Yeah, that's a beautiful story. It also makes me think of the analogy of the lotus that grows through the mud and
Yes.
rises above it all to bloom on the surface. And that was always something that I held on to
Yeah.
as I went through my healing journey, is to just know that you will reach that point where there is no more mud and you
Yeah.
are fully expressing yourself and you are that vibrant flower of the lotus on top of the water.
How do you help inspiring entrepreneurs removing the clays and the mud from their beautiful golden essence?
Yeah, so I work with really number one step is getting to know yourself better, understanding who you are, what's
Hmm.
important to you, what your zones of genius are, and how you want to align and express yourself openly in the world. I don't believe that there is one way to follow. I believe that everybody knows exactly which way will be the most joyous way for them. And I fully believe that life is meant to be a joyous experience. It's supposed to be, you know, community and collaboration and, supporting each other, not only in human form, but also in divine form, in spirit
Yeah.
form, right? And when we are in that place of connecting and knowing ourselves, it takes away all that stress. It takes
Yeah.
away all that feeling of loneliness. I don't feel lonely anymore. Every once in a while there's a moment where, of course I'm human. There's still things that come up and that I work on, but things like that used to stop me for days or weeks even. And now it's like, it's a moment in
Yeah.
time, and you move past it and you maintain that joy, maintain that momentum.
Have you ever heard of the book Anti-Fragile by Nicholas Taleb?
Anti-Fragile. Do I have that book? I don't think I do.
Oh, that's a golden gem. No, actually, it's a new word because it doesn't really exist. There's resilience, but it isn't exactly being anti-fragile, isn't exactly being resilient. I think what I actually interpret the anti-fragility as having the last chakra open, connected to the higher source, and not really connected to material things. And I think really understand the law of impermanence and make make you grow from it. Because
Mhm.
resilient, you just adapt. Anti-fragile, you adapt, you get stronger through adaptations. Like, I don't know, like a steel or like a sword, it gets sharper and sharper and sharper all the time.
Mhm. I like that a lot, actually. Um, and it is how I see the journey, because it's a fine tuning.
Yeah.
And it's not, let's throw everything out and start over. It's a slow fine tuning, and then it ages like a fine wine. It just gets better and
Beautiful.
better and better, right?
Yeah. For example, I don't really like, how the industry is called personal development. It looks like we are a machine. For me, like as you said, the first step is knowing who you are. So for me, the industry is more like a self-discovery industry
Mm,
rather than a personal development. It looks like we're software, but we're not really software. I think we're much more than software. We're not computers. We are
yeah.
human beings who have emotions and energy. So I don't know. At least this is what I think. Let me ask you this. So during the last podcast, I used the analogy of the five gems coming from the Thanos, the Infinity Globes, and your first gem was yoga. What are the
Mhm.
other four gems of your healing journey or
Mm.
self-discovery journey?
Oh, that is such a good question. Oh my goodness, I love it. So the first one was yoga.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, I think, was retreats, because
Oh, good.
I love travel. I love adventure, and retreats for me, I think, is just such an incredible way to not only connect to the self, but also connect to each other and learn and experience
Mm-hmm.
life. So I love retreats.
Yeah.
Um, the next one would be Reiki,
Oh.
and learning Reiki. I did that for a while. And that opened me up so much. The next one would actually probably be death, because I
Oh.
experienced one of my best friends passing away. And
Sorry to hear that.
through that grief, thank you. Through that grief, though, I catapulted my ability to connect to source. And I opened myself up to all kinds of new gifts through that experience. As
Mm-hmm.
hard as it was, I'm grateful for the experience now. And
Yeah.
just because he's not here in the physical does not mean I don't communicate with him anymore. I talk to him all the time, and he talks back.
Yeah.
So I really learned how, you talk about the impermanence, how impermanent this body is, and how eternal we are as energetic beings. So
Mm-hmm.
that was one. Um, and then I think the last two would probably be energy awareness, which is what I'm certified in. I'm an energy awareness, energy coach.
Okay.
And then the subconscious. So going
Okay.
from the conscious into the subconscious, into the body, into releasing pattern behaviors through hypnosis and NLP.
I tried NLP. I did hypnosis, like for meditations,
Mm.
but I've never tried Reiki. Uh, the
Mm.
previous guest was a Reiki teacher, but I never tried Reiki. I take tarot reader, but never. Definitely, it's something I want to do. But I'll be doing in 2 weeks sound healing through Tibetan. The uh
Yes.
yeah, the bells.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
I use the bell when I do the meditation, but nobody used the bells on me. So I want to
Mhm.
try it.
Oh, it's amazing. I've used that modality a few times, and it's amazing how it changes through the years as your own ability to experience and experience frequency changes, the
Yeah.
experience changes. So yeah, the first time I experienced sound healing, it was amazing. This last time I could actually see the vibration color. Like I had my
Whoa.
eyes closed and there were just these like lights of color and
Power.
sound, and whew, it was amazing.
I can't wait to try it right now. I'm even more hyped than before, really. I don't
Yeah.
know what to expect. I'm a very sensible to um sound in
Mhm.
general.
Mhm.
So I really look forward to this experience. And it's something I want to incorporate into my business is learning properly how to use a bell along with drums, also using the drums to guide people during meditation. I think
Yeah.
that the power of sound to truly unleash, I think the unconscious mind, you can get way, way deeper into yourself and understand who you are. Maybe even uh starting to be aware of your trauma. And when you are aware of your own trauma, you can get over it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I love that. Follow that thread, my friend.
Yeah. Um, best retreat you have ever done in your life. Where was it and why was it so awesome?
Best retreat. Well, I've been to retreats and then I've also facilitated retreats. So I think my last international retreat was probably one of my favorites. I facilitated a retreat in Costa Rica, and it was absolutely magical. I had people from all over the world come, and we spent a week in Nocera, and it was adventure, it was spiritual, it was, connection, it was all of those things. It fed my soul. So I think that was probably the most wonderful experience. And then taking a retreat, I think I'll go back to I was in a retreat in St. Lucia right at the beginning of my journey, and that was what brought me to coaching.
Oh.
Um, I was teaching yoga back then, and I was at a retreat learning about marketing and how to be a leader. And
Hmm.
everybody else there, they were all coaches.
Okay, I see.
And so I learned about coaching, and before that, I didn't even know coaching existed.
Same for
And
me.
right, and I was like, "Who? What is this amazing thing?"
How did
And
you
so,
learn the coaching without knowing what coaching exists? For me, it was through teaching because I've been a teacher for many years. Even before I was teaching yoga, I was teaching languages for many years. And what I've been doing for many years is actually considered coaching. So, how did you
yeah.
realize that what you were doing for many years was actually coaching?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it was. When I was there, I asked one of my peers, how do I become a coach? And of course, the coaching answer to that is, how do you want to become a coach, right? So, so I came home and I broke down my life into lessons. And I realized that my father, who had been a manager in business, had given me a whole bunch of lessons around coaching, because he was
Oh,
he was a manager in a project manager and he coached sports and all of those things. And so I knew a lot of that stuff without realizing I knew it.
Nice.
And so I came home and I broke it all down, and then I put it all back together and I created a coaching program.
Okay.
And that's how I started coaching.
That's nice. And who were actually your three most important mentors in the coaching industry that help you to become the entrepreneur we are, the person that you are right now?
Mm-hmm. So my three most important, I think probably one of them, they've all become friends now. So
Nice.
when I started, they were my mentors, but now they're my best friends. So one of them her name is Julia Armette. She is a genius. She works with corporations, bringing higher consciousness concepts into the corporations.
Okay.
Second would be one of my best friends who was my success coach when I became certified as a coach. And we coach each other all the time. He's helped me so much through the years. And I guess the first one, way back when, before I even knew what coaching was, her name was Julie Zuzek. She's a Canadian coach.
Right.
And she had a podcast called The Corporate Yogi.
Oh,
yeah.
That's wild. I like that.
Yeah, I know. And that's why I was drawn to her originally. And she was the first person to introduce me to coaching. And actually, she was the one that led the retreat that I went to in St. Lucia. And through that connection, my life completely changed.
Indeed. For me, the first coach that I had when I started my coaching process, was Tony Robbins. I did the UPW. Then my second one was Bob Proctor, which unfortunately died a few years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. And Jay Shetty. I really like Jay Shetty, as a monk, then became an entrepreneur. They are not my mentors anymore, but back in the days, they were really helpful. I'm grateful. So I think a very important thing as people is that we cherish beautiful moment that we have with our mentors. And then when we evolve, and as evolve, I think we self-discover who we are and what we want. We kind of need, I think, to step back from the master, because otherwise you get too attached to his or her way of doing, and you become unauthentic. You become a copycat. And there are so many copycats in every industry. Everyone is afraid of being Enrico, Molly, or Robert, or wherever. Everyone wants to be someone else. And I learned that in yoga because everyone is trying to enter into a pose they're not ready for, or they're just not designed because they're, I don't know, the acetabulum of the femur doesn't, it's not meant to do it I don't know, compared to the guy or the girl that is just beside you. And I think it's okay. Anatomy teaches you to value your strength, but also your weakness.
Exactly.
Your weakness.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important point. First of all, I fully believe that when we are ready, the teacher appears. And you learn from that teacher, and then you integrate what you've learned, and then you innovate what you've learned. And Madhusai, that's what he always told me, because I finished my yoga teacher training, and I went back to him and I said, should I become a breathwork teacher now? Like, what's the next step? And he just laughed at me and he says, you don't have to do that. You just be you. integrate what you've
Beautiful.
learned and create something new. And that is the way of moving towards your directional path.
Yeah.
It's always learning, but being the producer or the director of your own journey, of your own expression,
Yeah.
and letting go of those teachers when you feel
You're
that
right.
they have nothing left to give you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today, we have 4 minutes left. I want to share this with you. I
Yeah.
ended my subscription with Alo Moves, which has been the platform where I did most of the yoga for years.
Mhm.
I thought that was enough. It was time for me to, and now it's time to create my own craft, my own
Exactly.
style.
Yep.
I cannot copy someone else. I can be inspired, but right now it's time for me to take my personal practice to a different level. It doesn't have to be
Absolutely.
better than them. It has to be mine.
Yes. 100%. 100%. And in making it yours, that's what makes it unique. And that's what attracts people to you.
Yeah,
Because we don't need another aloe yoga. We need what you have to offer.
beautiful, beautiful. Molly, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful insights. And from the Golden Child podcast, I wish you nothing but the best to you and your wonderful business directly from Italy to the lovely country of Canada. Really, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Enrico. I loved being here. This was a great little chit chat. And who knows, maybe we should collaborate on a retreat in Italy sometime soon.
Beautiful. I look forward to it. Thank you
Okay.
so much for tuning in. Have a beautiful day. Namaste. Peace.